Exposed. 3 Sinister. Haunted true stories that will terrify you in the dead of night. Sarah felt her heart quicken as she pulled into the driveway. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that crept across their small home. She could hear the whisper of the wind, almost like a warning, as she stepped inside. A low creak echoed behind her. Her stomach turned. She brushed it off. It was just the house settling. But a voice in her head remained, warning her that something more sinister lurked in the dark. "Mom, Mr. Thompson always watches me play from his porch," Alex said, his voice tinged with fear that twisted Sarah's gut. Mr. Thompson? The beloved neighbor known for his rusty old swing and warm smiles? A chill crept up her spine, yet she chose to dismiss it. "He just likes to see kids playing, honey," she reassured, though doubt gnawed at her. Each night grew heavier with anxiety. Shadows from the porch seemed to grow longer, stretching across the yard, looming over them. After long shifts at the diner, she returned to find Alex jumping at every sound, his laughter silenced by the weight of unease. The toys they'd play with now lay scattered, and she noticed subtle changes. Alex's favorite truck had been placed in the garden, unusual for its habitually tidy character. How could the friendly Mr. Thompson be a threat? Days turned into nights where paranoia tightened its grip around her thoughts. The police shrugged off her concerns when she finally confided in them. "Everyone loves Mr. Thompson," they said with those condescending smiles, dismissing her fears as if she were a child spinning ghost stories. Then came the night everything shattered. Her phone rang as she worked the late shift. "Alex is missing." It was the neighbor's frantic voice, piercing through her like ice. Her world flipped upside down. She bolted out of the diner, a suffocating dread clawing at her throat. The image of Alex laughing, free and curious, was replaced by dark visions of what might have happened, and the thought of Mr. Thompson's watchful eyes sent her sprinting through the neighborhood. She pounded on doors, gasping for breath, shouting for her son. Each unanswered call echoed back at her like a taunt. When she reached Mr. Thompson's house, the porch light flickered ominously like a malignant star, and there he sat, whittling something with a knife, a smirk carved into his face. "Looking for something, Sarah?" he asked, his voice honeyed with malice. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue." The smile danced on his lips, teasing, taunting. She took a step back, heart racing. A cold sweat broke across her brow as her eyes darted around, scanning for any hint of Alex. Suddenly, she could hear the sound of laughter, muffled, coming from behind him. The night air turned thick with dread, wrapping around her like an almost tangible layer of fear. "Where is he?" Sarah's voice trembled, her hands clenched into fists. The shadows shifted, laughing back at her, but then a flash of movement pulled her gaze, and the laughter faded, swallowed by the dark. As a deep stillness enveloped them, a chilling realization coursed through her. This friendly facade masked something vile, and with the dawn looming ever closer, she was stuck at the edge of a discovery that could shatter her world completely. Could she uncover the truth before it was too late? And what dark secrets would she find hiding in her once peaceful community? The laughter twisted in her gut, sending icy fingers crawling along her spine. She could taste the fear pooling in her mouth, bitter and metallic. Sarah took another step backward, desperate to maintain some distance from the ominous figure before her. "Tell me where he is," she cried, the words exploding from her lips as if they could shatter the malevolent spell hanging in the AIRD. Thompson regarded her with eyes that glinted like marbles, a sickening mixture of amusement and menace. He gestured lazily with his knife, its edge glimmering under the flashing porch light. "Oh, he is just around, playing and waiting." His voice slithered into the night, wrapping around her like a noose. "What kind of game?" The way she asked felt like a baited trap as her heart palpitated, a war drum in her chest. The shadows thickened, pressing against her as if trying to suffocate her. "Let us just say it's a bittersweet escape," he replied, a smile stretching across his face, revealing teeth too sharp. "You wouldn't want to spoil the surprise." Suddenly, a loud thud came from inside the house, followed by an agonizing scream that ripped her heart out. The scream sounded just like Alex. Without thinking, Sarah dashed past Mr. Thompson, her instincts blaring. She had to find him. There was no room for hesitation. The door swung open under her frantic push, revealing a dim hallway lined with family photos. Each frame seemed to watch her, their glassy eyes reflecting her fear, her desperation. "Alex!" she shouted, her voice hoarse with dread as she stumbled deeper into the house. Every corner held a mystery that coiled tighter around her throat. The air felt stale, thick with the lingering scent of decay. She quickly skimmed through the living room. Empty. She listened for any sign of movement, any hint of her son, her heart thrumming like wild drumming on a battlefield. Another crash echoed from the back room, followed by a soft, anguished whimper. "Alex!" she cried again, urgency gripping her throat as she veered toward the sound. The door to the back room was slightly ajar, darkness spilling out like a pool of ink. She shoved the door wide open, expecting to see her son, but instead, she stumbled into a horrific tableau. The walls were plastered with old newspaper clippings, stories of children who had gone missing in the neighborhood for years. Each headline clawed at her sanity, and her stomach churned in revulsion. In the middle of the room was an old crib, rockers creaking ominously with the weight of unseen horrors. And then she saw him, Alex, eyes wide with terror, pinned under a grotesque figure hiding in the shadows. A figure resembling Mr. Thompson, only now, his features twisted and monstrous, dripping malice. "Yes, just playing a game." The thing chuckled, deep and mocking as it leaned over her son, hands trembling with grotesque anticipation. "Get away from him!" Sarah screamed, lunging forward, adrenaline fueling her rage. But before she could reach her son, the door slammed shut behind her, trapping her within the darkness. Panic filled the room like a choking fog. She hammered against the door, but it wouldn't budge. Unfathomable dread curled in her stomach. Where was the Mr. Thompson she once knew? In that moment, something cold and wet touched her shoulder. She turned slowly, bracing herself for the worst, and there stood the grinning reflection of every parent's nightmare. "Wanna play?" it whispered, echoing through her mind like a sinister hymn. As her heart raced and lights swirled in her vision, a thought pierced the haze: could she really save Alex? With a surge of determination, she turned to face the looming dark. Shadows danced on the walls as flickering lights filled her peripheral vision. But when she glanced back, Alex was gone. Silence wrapped around her. "Where is he?" The walls closed in, and as desperation clawed at her throat, she understood the game had only just begun. What awaited her in this hellish nightmare? One thing was certain: she'd find him, even if it killed her. Sarah felt her breath hitch in her throat, the darkness swirling like a thunderstorm around her. "Alex!" she called again, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. She pushed against the door, the wood splintering against her fists, but the door remained an unyielding barrier. She took a step back, her eyes wild, searching for an escape, searching for her son in the room. The walls seemed to throb like a living thing. Each heartbeat echoed inside her, synchronizing with the frantic thuds of her pulse. She scanned every corner, every shadow, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching her. The laughter from before, now a distant echo, clung to her thoughts like a grotesque melody. "Playtime," almost over the voice whispered again, this time from deeper within the murky gloom, taunting her. Panic surged, attacking her mind like a swarm of bees. "Get away from him!" she shouted, still lunging toward the darkness, desperation consuming her. Then a flicker. A shape darted past her, too fast to define, too familiar to ignore. For a heartbeat, She thought she saw a glimpse of Alex's tattered t-shirt. Alex! She lunged again. The door creaked, warping slowly, and for a moment she dared to believe she could break through. As she reached the far side of the room, she spotted a trapdoor partially hidden beneath a rotting rug. Heart in her throat, Sarah knelt and yanked it open. The hinges squealed like tortured souls. A foul stench wafted upward, wrapping around her like a shroud, but she didn't hesitate. Alex! She peered into the darkness below, grappling with a flash of dread in her gut. She could feel the warmth of tears threatening to spill from her eyes. I'm coming for you. She grabbed hold of the edge and hoisted herself down, her legs dangling over the edge of the abyss. The air was cold, thick with despair, and she knew this was not a place meant for the living. Footsteps echoed softly as she climbed down into the void, each creak of the old wood making it seem like the house was alive and aware of her presence. Groping around, the darkness enveloped her. She felt something brush against her foot, sending chills down her spine. She jumped back, nearly toppling into the unknown, heart racing in terror. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a cacophony as if the walls were narrating the very lives that had been trapped here. Where are you? She cried out, the urgency in her voice fading into the yawning darkness. A soft sound echoed back, a mumbled response. It was muffled, a whisper she could barely make out. Help me, mother, her chest tightened. It was Alex. With renewed determination, she stumbled forward, hands outstretched, seeking to grasp her son's familiar form in the enveloping gloom. Another flicker caught her attention, and before she knew it, she was running, panic sharpening her focus. Alex! Hold on. I'm here. The whispers grew frantic, a tide of noise battering her senses. Suddenly, the grip of icy fingers latched around her ankle, pulling her back with an insistent yank. She screamed, anguish spiraling through her. Stay with us, the shadows hissed, and just for a moment, she felt their dead weight tugging persistently at her spirit, wanting her to remain. No. She kicked violently against the dark, summoning whatever strength she had left. With a furious push, she freed herself and stumbled forward into a room lit by an eerie glow. In front of her, shadows flitted like frenzied moths, coiling around what lay in the center. There, in the flickering light, sat a grotesque, twisted figure perched above a crib. It was no longer Mr. Thompson. This was something worse, monstrous and otherworldly, a nightmarish creation of dark desires, and then she saw it, a small, trembling hand reaching out from the cradle. Alex. Terror gripped her heart, threatening to crush her. She charged at the figure, but the moment she reached out, it turned towards her, revealing hollow eyes full of delight. Come play, it cooed, and Sarah felt the world spin around her. And that breath. A truth shone through the darkness. The game wasn't a choice for her. It was a trap that had already begun. What would she have to sacrifice to save her son? And as she looked into the abyss of its gaze, she realized the rules had changed, and what lay ahead would force her to confront her deepest fears. The figure loomed, its shadow stretching across the room like a sinister shroud. Sarah's breath quickened as her mind clamored for clarity. Desperation clawed at her throat. Alex's small hand trembled in the air, reaching for her through the forsaken gloom. Let him go, she demanded, voice wavering, yet laced with fierce resolve. The monster grinned, its hollow eyes flickering with a malicious delight. But he has so much fun, the words dripped like poison, seeping deep into her veins. With every fiber of her being, Sarah pushed against the suffocating darkness that wrapped around her. The room warped in her vision, shadows slithering closer, taunting her, whispering sweet lies. Stay with us. Be one of us. No. You can't have him. She lunged forward, adrenaline surging, hands outstretched. But the moment she crossed the threshold, time fractured. The shadows thickened, clawing at her, dragging her down like a sinking ship into a sea of despair. A guttural laugh erupted from the figure as it embraced the retreating shadows. The crib crackled ominously, and the soft sound of Alex's breathing pierced through the chaos, fragile and distant. Mommy? I'm scared, hold on. Her heart hammered against her chest as she reached desperately for him, but the shadows swarmed, biting at her skin. Every second stretched out, each moment feeling like a lifetime. Let her try, a whisper floated through the air, chilling her to the bone. Another voice chimed in, almost playful. Yes, let us see how much she'll suffer. Stop. Fear seated in her voice as she fought against the tendrils slithering around her ankles. They constricted tighter, threatening to haul her deeper into their grip. Gathering her resolve, she stomped her foot down, rage igniting her strength. A bright pulse of light erupted from within her, forcing the shadows momentarily back, a beacon in the oppressive gloom. She turned and sprinted towards the crib, her heart racing as she reached for Alex. But the figure screeched, snapping its head toward her. You'll pay for that. It lunged, and the room twisted, landscapes morphing into distorted nightmares. The walls churned, warping around her like a living entity, trying to ensnare her. She could feel the heat of malice rising, a tempest of rage swirling around them, as if every trapped soul was rising to glory inside this deranged entity's lair. Alex, grab my hand, she yelled fiercely, reaching out with every ounce of love she had. The light flickered again, illuminating the cradle just long enough for her to see Alex's wide, terrified eyes staring back. I'm coming. The terror of losing him ignited the last reserves of her strength. But as her fingers grazed Alex's, the entity let out a shriek that vibrated through her bones, causing her to freeze. Give it back, she screamed, and as she fought to pull him away, she felt something shift in the atmosphere. A sudden darkness washed over the room, swallowing the light like a breath of doom. What do you want? She cried desperately, confronting the thing that had consumed so many before her. It blinked slowly, and its expression twisted into a grin filled with dread. Only what you are willing to give. The shadows pulsed around them, a heartbeat echoing in the gloom. The weight of the choice hung thick in the air. Would she barter her own soul for her son's freedom? The answer hovered just beyond her grasp. Don't let it take you, Alex pleaded, tears streaming down his cheeks. No. She shook her head, but fear laced her resolve. Not you. The shadows trembled, weaving tighter in a desperate dance. Within that tangle of darkness and uncertainty, she glimpsed the choice laid out as plainly as her own motherly love. Before she could think, she shouted, I will do it. Just let him go. But just as the words left her lips, the figure's laughter filled the room, rich and cruel, echoing off the walls that flickered with smothering darkness. Welcome to the game, Sarah, but now, it's your turn. As everything spiraled into black, Sarah felt the cold grip of destiny wrapping around her heart. What new horror awaited her in the grip of this game? Would she discover the cost of a mother's desperate sacrifice, or was it all just a cruel illusion of hope? The darkness engulfed her, a thick, suffocating fog that seeped into her very soul. Sarah felt herself being pulled apart from the inside. Her thoughts raced. Was this truly the bargain she had struck? The shadows danced around her, cackling and weaving an intricate tapestry of dread. Sarah, the voice sounded like Alex, yet warped by the shadows. Mommy, don't let it take you. Desperation clawed at her throat. She could sense the monster's glee. It savored her turmoil. You shouldn't have said that, dear. Now the game begins. A grin spread across the figure's hideous face, revealing jagged teeth soaked in shadows. Sarah stumbled on what felt like unfathomable depths, trying to find her bearings. The room around her shifted again, transforming into a nightmarish reflection of the house she once called home. The once familiar walls twisted grotesquely, echoing with faint whispers and screams. What is this place? She yelled, her voice cracking, trying to pierce through the oppressive air. Where's my son? Let us play hide and seek, shall we? The entity laughed gleefully. You're the seeker, my dear. Find him before the light goes out. Panic surged through her as she sprinted forward, launching herself through the disorienting maze of shadows. Each step felt like wading through chaos, pulling her down deeper into despair. She could hear Alex's faint cries, muffled noises calling for her from every corner. Frantic and breathless, she turned a corner only to confront a warped reflection of herself in the wall's hollowed eyes, and a twisted mouth echoed her own fear back at her. In that moment, dread gripped her heart. What would she become if she lost herself to this darkness? "Mommy!" Alex's voice echoed again, crystalline and vulnerable, breaking through the smothering weight. "Hold on. I'm coming," she shouted, determination igniting within her. She fought against the shadows that wrapped around her like chains, refusing to allow fear to choke her. If this was a game, then she would play. "I will find him." Tick-tock, the entity chimed ominously, the walls pulsating with a rhythm, amplifying the tension that laced each moment. "The light draws thin. Where could he be?" Frantically, Sarah tore through the dimensions of this twisted maze, instinct guiding her through blind corners and dead ends. The cries rang clearer now, illuminating her path, shining a flicker of hope. But hope felt fragile, breaking with each realization. What if she couldn't find him? What if this was all part of the game to break her before she reached him? Just a few more steps. She urged herself, sprinting faster as shadows clawed at her heels, their sinister whispers hissing promises of despair. Just a little more. Suddenly, the ground fell away, and Sarah tumbled, crashing into a chamber of darkness. Above her, the shadows swarmed, a frenzied mass, swirling like a violent storm. "Game over." The entity's voice echoed, a cold satisfaction lacing each syllable. "Tick-tick, just a moment longer." "Dear Sarah," she squirmed, desperately searching for a way out, her pulse racing as darkness loomed. Was this the end? Would she be trapped here forever, lost in a maze of despair with no light to guide her back? And then, through the swirling chaos, she caught a faint glimmer of light, a beacon weaving through the dark like a firefly. "Mommy, over here." It was Alex. With newfound resolve, she hurled herself towards the light, praying that it wouldn't extinguish before she reached him. As she ran, the suffocating shadows coiled tighter, their grip absolute. Would she break free? Or was it already too late? As she reached out, desperate and trembling, she felt the warmth of her son's hand, but a piercing scream erupted from the depths, shaking her resolve. "Your choice is not finished, Sarah." The challenges layered around them, growing heavier as the figure loomed once more. What other horrors lay ahead? What price would she pay to rescue Alex from the clutches of the dark? Sarah's heart raced, pounding like a drum in her ears as she tightened her grip around Alex's hand. The glow that had brought her hope flickered, threatening to plunge them back into utter darkness. "Stay close," she whispered fiercely, her voice trembling as they inched forward. Shadows crawled along the walls like spiders, each one twitching, hungry for the warmth of their bodies. "Mommy, I'm scared." Alex's voice wavered, small and fragile like a candle fighting against the wind. "Me too, baby, but we're getting out of here," she reassured, forcing a smile that felt foreign, almost grotesque, against the pulsing dread. Then the laughter erupted again, filling the chamber like shards of glass, slicing through silence. "Oh, sweet Sarah, you think the light will save you? How naive." It was the entity's voice, dripping with malice. Images twisted in her mind, moments of joy, with Alex juxtaposed against the taunting darkness. "Let us make it more interesting, shall we?" A little wager from the shadows. A swirling mist poured forward, forming a sinister shape. A door appeared, grotesque and oozing shadows, its frame flickering in and out of existence. Step through and decide. Save your precious child, or save yourself. Choose wisely. Fear wrapped around her throat, squeezing tight. The notion of freedom tempted her. But at what cost? "Alex," she murmured, glancing down at her son. His eyes were wide, reflecting a fear she had never seen before. "What do I do?" "Mommy, don't leave me," he cried out, pulling at her arm, grounding her against the encroaching terror. "Stay with me." She clutched him tighter, feeling the warmth of his breath against her skin, a reminder of the life and love that existed beyond these suffocating walls. The darkness laughed, a sinister echo, relishing their turmoil. "Time is running out," the entity sang, and with every syllable, the shadows thickened around them, smothering their breaths, robbing them of hope. "Your son is merely a thought, a figment to trim your burdens. You cannot win without sacrifice." One desperate thought pushed through the chaos. "I will not lose him." Drawing a shaky breath, she faced the imposing door, torn between a horrible dilemma and the urgency of Alex's soft whimpers. "I won't let you take him," Sarah shouted defiantly, pushing against the creeping darkness. Suddenly, Alex gasped, pointing into the void behind her. "Mommy, look." Turning, she saw flickers of memories unraveling from the shadows, moments when she let fear define her, when she chose safety over bravery. Each failed moment manifested as haunting visages, a reflection of her past decisions. "No," she whimpered, recoiling as dread washed over her, but then she felt a flicker of strength igniting within. Her love for Alex surged through the despair. "I will never choose myself over him." With a fierce resolve, she took a step towards the door, ready to face whatever awaited, hoping against hope that her love could overcome the impending darkness. "Choose," the entity growled, its laughter morphing into a harrowing screech that reverberated off the walls. "Together," Sarah shouted, locking eyes with Alex. "We'll face this together." But the choice lay heavy on her heart. What would the shadows demand? What unknown price lurked behind the door? As they stepped forward, the darkness broke and enveloped them, pulling them into an abyss of screams. And then silence fell. The void swallowed them, leaving only the sound of their hearts racing, a desperate drumbeat against the impending doom. "Are you ready for the final challenge, Sarah?" A voice echoed grimly in the emptiness, thick with anticipation. Will they emerge intact, or will the darkness claim them both? Their surroundings shifted suddenly, like a film reel gone haywire, projecting scenes of both horror and tenderness. The warm embrace of the darkness dissipated, replaced by a stark, cold chill. Sarah and Alex found themselves standing on a weathered wooden bridge that spanned an endless chasm. The air grew thick, suffocating, as if it were alive with ominous whispers. The darkness pulsed at the edges of the bridge, creeping closer, eager to engulf them once more. "This is your playground now, Sarah," the entity crooned, its voice a syrupy menace. "But only one can cross." "What do you mean?" Sarah's voice trembled, the pit in her stomach widening. She felt Alex squeeze her hand tighter, the warmth of his small body a feeble reminder of her connection to life. Above, shadows twisted into ghastly shapes, contorting into past fears, the look of betrayal from her father, the judgmental stare of an old friend, moments when she had let others down. Each form darted above the bridge, howling, taunting her. "Face your failures, or perish." "Mommy, I don't want to see." Alex whimpered, eyes darting, desperately seeking comfort in the disintegrating safety of his mother. "You don't have to, just stick with me," Sarah said, her voice setting like cement, unwavering despite the turmoil around them. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appeared at the end of the bridge, a woman draped in tattered fabric, her face obscured. "You wish to save him, but what have you sacrificed for true love? What will you offer to the void?" The air thickened with tension. Sarah felt the weight of that question pierce her. "I'd give anything," she shouted defiantly, clenching her fists. "Anything you say?" The woman stepped closer, revealing hollow eyes that shone like dark stars. "Prepare to offer those around you to spare him," the very essence of connection. The bridge trembled, creaking under the mounting chaos. Shadows whispered uncertainties, filling her mind. "Help me." "What does that mean?" "You'll know soon enough," the entity hissed, laughter reverberating like thunderclaps, shaking the wooden structure. "Now choose. Surrender your bonds, or watch him fall." She glanced at Alex, whose face was painted with terror. It ripped her heart to shreds to think of him alone, drowning in the darkness. "You can't take him, I won't let you," she cried, feeling her grip slacken as desperation consumed her. Find the truth. The bridge shuddered violently, shadows swirling faster, mocking her resolve. She could feel herself unraveling, her grip on reality slipping as echoes of her past beckoned to her. Faces of people she had lost, friendships abandoned, each showcased the choices she made that led to this very moment. "Mommy." Alex's voice shattered through the noise, a beacon amid the storm. She turned, staring into his eyes, the light of innocence begging her for reassurance. "Wait for me." She dug her nails into her palms, drawing strength from the love she felt for him. "Together, we'll escape this." "Oh, how sweet," the entity sneered, pulling each word like a noose. "But this is no fairy tale, darling. Only one can truly leave this place, and someone must pay the price. This isn't over." She screamed into the void, but doubt crept in like a venomous fog. Something shifted in the shadows behind Alex, a shape slithering closer. Darkness congealed into a figure, reflecting her fears. Could this be her final test? The seconds stretched, her mind racing, heart pounding, as she realized she had to make her move. In a desperate plea, Sarah whispered, "What do I need to do?" "Awaken your truth," it taunted, "and let the darkness judge your worth." As the shadows danced, she felt Alex's hand slipping from hers. "No," she gasped, plunging forward, determined to defy the fate written in the darkness. The world spun, and the bridge began to crumble beneath them. Fear clawed at her gut as choices loomed larger than life. Would she abandon everything to save her child? Or could she find a way to hold on? The ground split, and she heard a shattering scream as the bridge teetered on the edge of oblivion. What would she choose? And could love conquer the shadows threatening to drag them down? The bridge swayed precariously, creaking underfoot as the dark entity cackled, its laughter echoing like a death knell through the chasm. Sarah lunged, grasping desperately for Alex's tiny hand, but the shadows clawed at him, dragging him back into the abyss. "Mommy." Panic surged in Alex's voice, a sound so raw it sent shards of ice down Sarah's spine. "No," she shrieked, fighting against the pull of the darkness. With every heartbeat, she felt the chilling grip of despair encircle her throat, tightening like a noose. The weight of the moment pressed down, forcing her breath to quicken, heart racing into a furious drumline of fear. The spectral woman loomed closer, her hollow eyes boring into Sarah's soul. "What will it be, dear? Will you abandon him for your own survival?" "Never," Sarah shouted, her voice cracking under the pressure. She could see the visceral fear in Alex's wide eyes, his small body trembling. He was her everything, her light in this pitch-black nightmare. The bridge convulsed again, splintering underfoot, and Sarah stumbled, nearly losing her balance. The shadows lunged, a writhing mass of dread snatching at her skirts, like hungry wolves. Alex's terrified wail pierced her thoughts, urging her to focus. "Together," she cried again, struggling to contain her own rising panic. Her eyes darted around, searching the shifting darkness for a glimmer of hope, a sign. The shadows raged and howled, battering her with their relentless frustrations, as memories of failure continued to torment her. Friends turned away, trust shattered, moments where she felt utterly alone. A deep, wet laugh erupted from the entity, swirling around her like a malevolent breeze. "His safety demands a price. What do you cling to? What will you sacrifice?" "I want to sacrifice him," Sarah screamed, feeling a mixture of fury and despair boiling within her. Suddenly, without warning, the bridge stopped shaking. An uneasy calm descended across the chasm, distorted voices surrounding her like a suffocating fog. The shadows froze in midair, shadows of accusations and failure looming large, casting a dark silhouette against Sarah's growing resolve. "Face them," the entity commanded, its voice now a serpent's hiss. "Face your past and let it go or lose the boy forever." Stealing her gaze, Sarah confronted the figures dancing in the darkness, the faces of her past, those she had hurt, the friend she had betrayed. Each confrontation felt like daggers aimed at her heart. But amidst the chaos, She felt a flicker of understanding wash over her. Each failure was a thread that wove her into the person she had become. "Forget the ghosts," she murmured, eyes locked on Alex. "They don't define me." In that moment, Sarah felt an unexpected warmth rising within her, growing stronger than the fear. "I've made mistakes, yes. But they have brought me to this very moment. I will not forsake love. I will embrace it." The upwelling of her spirit collided with the leering shadows. With a burst of defiance, she unshackled the burden of shame that weighed her down for so long. The shadows shrieked, reeling as if struck, their claws retracting from Alex.
"No."
The entity hissed, furious at her refusal. "You think you can just walk away?" Sarah scooped Alex into her arms, clinging to him fiercely as the bridge trembled beneath her. The darkness writhed, swirling, but she felt the power of her love surging against its grip. "We are stronger than you," she roared, and with that, the bridge fractured beneath their feet. In one heartbeat, Sarah felt the world plunge into void, the screams fading behind them as they were engulfed in darkness. For a moment, she felt nothing but the rush of air, silence swallowing them whole, then a blinding light erupted around them, showing the outline of a new path unfurling ahead. But the shadows were far from finished, slithering to reform, eager to retaliate. "Look behind!" the entity screeched, a master of terror unyielding in its pursuit. Sarah turned, heart pounding. What new horrors awaited them? Would the specters of her past return, seeking vengeance this time? In the distance, she saw the twisted faces of her memories, more vengeful and fierce than ever before, closing in. The moment hung in the air. Sarah held on to Alex tightly. What have I unleashed? The price of love had been paid, but at what cost? The moment the light began to flicker, Sarah's heart raced. In defiance of the creeping shadows that loomed behind, she squeezed Alex tighter. Fear poured from every corner of her mind, clawing at her sanity. The faces of her past were grotesque, twisted in anger, their mouths moving in silent screams for her to bear the weight of her guilt. "Look away," Alex shouted, but his small hands trembled in her grasp, betraying his own dread. "We can't let them catch us," she gasped, adrenaline spiking through her veins. The new path stretched out ahead, pulsing with an eerie glow that seemed to beckon them forward, yet the clutches of the spectral figures crept nearer. The ground beneath their feet felt solid, but emitted a low growl, vibrating with sinister energy. Sarah hesitated just for a moment, enough to glimpse a flash of her former friend's face darting in and out of the shadows, its eyes glittering with an otherworldly malevolence. The memory felt like a live wire in her mind, electric and painful. "Mommy, what do they want?" Alex's innocent question cut through the rising storm in Sarah's chest like a knife, shattering her fleeting bravado. "They crave retribution," she whispered, glancing back at the oncoming darkness.
"They want me to pay."
The entity's laughter echoed again, now a haunting melody interwoven with her past failures. "Rediscover your sins, dear Sarah. Embrace them. Let the boy see. Let him understand your truth."
"No,"
she refused. "I am more than my past." But the shadows seemed to coil tightly around Alex, an echo of Sarah's distress vibrating in the air. His scared whimper made her heart ache, a sound that dripped with despair and shook her resolve. She tightened her hold, feeling the warmth of his small body, but also the cold whisper of the past lurking near.
"Run,"
Sarah cried out, propelling them into a desperate sprint down the glowing path. Each hurried breath stung her lungs, the relentless echo of dark laughter chasing them as they fled. The landscape around them morphed, colors swirling in an unsettling blur, haunted whispers lingering at the edge of her thoughts. Suddenly, the surroundings shifted. The glowing pathway twisted sharply, revealing a foreboding cave mouth. The shadows swirled with greater fury, eager to drag them back. "They won't allow you to escape that easily," the entity hissed, weaving through the darkness like a sinister cloud. Her instinct screamed at her to choose the cave or keep running, to confront whatever lay ahead or lose everything in the rear view. Could it truly mean salvation, or merely another trap?
Mom.
Alex cried as he stumbled, barely catching himself against the cold stone wall that lined the cave's entrance. That falter cemented her decision. There was no retreat now. "We're going in," she cried, with no certainty of what lay ahead, but driven by a fierce determination. The specters howled, anger shaking the very earth beneath them. As they plunged into the dark maw of the cave, the shadows swirled in fury at their backs. Flickering lights danced along the walls, revealing images of Sarah's regrets, betrayed friends, shattered relationships, and lost dreams.
No.
She shouted, pushing through, her heartbeat blending with the pounding echoes around them. Mommy, Alex whimpered, his small voice lost amidst the cacophony. "What is this place?" "It's where we will fight," she shouted back, pulling him closer. But as they ventured deeper, the shadows coiled tighter, seeping around them like fog. The walls began to constrict, each step forward revealing more horror, and Sarah's heart sank. What is happening? In that moment, the shadows receded, leaving an empty space. A part of her dared to hope they had escaped. Another knew better. As she stepped into the center, a familiar figure emerged from the dark, a ghostly replica of herself, eyes full of shame and regret. "Face what you are," it whispered, shaking in rage. "You cannot be free." Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the realization hit. What had she truly unleashed? The specters were bearing down on them, her past flooding back with a vengeance. Would she finally confront the truth and free herself, or add another failure to weigh down her soul? With a fracture of light dimming behind them, Sarah realized they were still trapped in a different fate. What would come next? Would facing her dark reflection be the key, or the ultimate doom? The darkness trembled around Sarah as she faced the version of herself she had tried so hard to escape. This replica wasn't just an echo. It embodied every regret, every hurt she had ever caused. A reflection of her deepest fears materialized before her, a reminder that her past wasn't something to be hidden away, but confronted. "You cannot have love without sacrifice," the shadow self whispered, voice thick with despair. "Face it. Face your truth." Sarah felt the chill of the words penetrate her core. It was too much, overwhelming her senses. Each pulse of the entity's laughter grew louder, filling the air with despair.
"Stop."
"It's not true," she shouted, clenching her fists as she pulled Alex closer, feeling his warmth steadied her racing heart. "Mommy, I'm scared." His small voice broke through her inner turmoil, stealing her breath. "No, baby, listen to me. We will get through this," she said, summoning every ounce of strength she could muster. Together, the cave shuddered as shadows lunged toward them, wanting to swallow them whole. But Sarah stood firm, grounding herself in the love she felt for Alex, refusing to let darkness tear them apart. "You don't own me.
You don't own my past."
The ghostly figure laughed, a twisted melody echoing through the cavern. The shadows shifted, their movements echoing an ancient dread of sentiment and loss. "Then show me," it hissed, and a hiss of wind blew past her ears, revealing memories she had long buried. Images flooded around them, her heart clenching as she witnessed moments of betrayal and pain. The day her father's disappointment etched itself in her mind, the friends she let slip away. Heartbreak bloomed anew with each scene, each reminder, each regret. But instead of crumbling, Sarah felt an ember ignite within. "Those mistakes shaped me, yes, but they don't define me. I choose love. I choose to break free." She felt Alex squeeze her hand tighter, his faith in her shining through the shadows. As her resolve strengthened, she stepped forward, facing her shadow self head-on. "I forgive you," she proclaimed, her voice merging with the echoes of the cave, a raw, cleansing declaration. "I will not run from you anymore. You are part of me, but you will not control me." The entity shrieked, a furious howl that rattled the stone walls. Shadows swirled, colliding against her as if trying to drown her in despair.
"No.
You can't do this." But Sarah felt the old burdens lifting, chains breaking as she embraced the truth. "Mommy, help." Alex called again, but the shadows danced away, creating a barrier between them.
No.
Sarah shouted, determination coursing through her. "Alex, trust me." In one sudden flicker, the shadow behind herself twisted, revealing a pathway bathed in brilliant light. "There's always a way out," Sarah encouraged, eyes blazing as she turned back to Alex. "You must trust me now." Trembling with resolve, she rushed toward her son, pushing past the darkness as it swirled around her like vapor. The weight of her past held no power here. She reached out, and Alex took her hand, his grip fierce in its innocence, anchoring her against the encroaching tide of shadows. Together, they surged toward the light, the warmth enveloping them, setting their spirits free. The shadows writhed and screamed behind them, churning in fury as they breached the threshold of the luminous escape. Suddenly, they burst into brightness, the shadows dissipating like fog against the morning sun. The cool air was fragrant and fresh, a stark contrast to the suffocating darkness they had just escaped. They stood atop a hill, eyes wide as they took in the beautiful landscape around them, the vibrant sensations of life greeting them. But somewhere in the undercurrents, memories still floated, pulling at her mind. Sarah knew the journey wasn't over. Shadows would always lurk nearby. "We beat the darkness, Alex," she whispered, pulling him closer. "But we must be vigilant. It's a part of life."
Together?
He asked, searching her eyes for assurance. "Always," she promised, wrapping her arms around him tightly, and there, under the brilliant expanse of a cerulean sky, Sarah felt the weight of her past behind her and the promise of a new beginning ahead. They had triumphed together, and she was determined to honor that bond. "Mom?" Alex tilted his head, curiosity glimmering in his gaze. "Yes, sweetheart? Can we go home?" "Of course," she smiled, kissing the top of his head. The shadows may still dance on the fringes of their lives, but they would embrace each day with courage, love, and the unbreakable bond of a mother and son. Now, as the sunlight beckoned them onward, the darkness receded, waiting silently in the depths, a reminder that the real victory lay in how they chose to confront it. Do you want to uncover more stories like this one? Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales of fear and courage. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let your voice be heard. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. We want to hear from you, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this exhilarating conclusion. Only a true fan understands the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.